I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At a Senate Appropriations Subcommittee hearing on Wednesday, Senator Jerry Moran pushed FDA Commissioner Robert Califf to have employees return to in-office work. After Dr. Califf said that many employees are productive working from home, the Kansas senator said he was, quote, discouraged that there is not a plan for a full return to in-office work. Take a listen to more here.
Next, I'd call on Senator Moran.
Chairwoman, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us this morning. You mentioned efficiencies at work just in your concluding sentences. It's my understanding that many of the staff at FDA continue to work from home, and I think it's a reasonable expectation to have our employees back to work in the office, in the laboratories, and across the agency. Is my understanding about the volume of employees that are still absent from the workplace accurate? And what's the plan to return them to the workplace soon?
Thanks for the question, Senator. And I think, there we go. Thanks for the question. And I think it's what you said is partially accurate, but I want to be very explicit here about what I think the facts are. People that have worked in our laboratories have always gone to work throughout the pandemic. You know, if your job required that you be at work, that's happened. Our ORA inspectors, as Mr. Rogers will talk about, you know, there were cutbacks because of the peril of travel and also difficulty often even getting into a facility when there were outbreaks. But our inspectors have put themselves at risk routinely going there. The place where people have had the option of virtual or hybrid work has been those who are dealing with data or administrative functions that really don't require that you're there in person to be most efficient. And I think our productivity is exemplified by the fact that we've carried on all the usual activities plus the pandemic activities. And I think if you talked to most of the industries that we regulate, they're pretty happy with the performance of the FDA. Now, we're in a pilot program now to look at the hybrid environment. In my previous job at Google, I spent a lot of time on this, where we had tremendous resources to do the analysis. And I think all of this is best handled by looking at the particular job, the particular function. And the question is, what's going to lead to the most productive employee who's most satisfied with the work?
So what percentage of the workforce no longer comes to the workplace?
No longer comes, I'd say maybe about half. Well, when you say no longer comes, that's a difficult thing to answer.
No longer comes on a regular weekly, a regular daily basis.
I'd say the majority are not in the physical location on a regular daily basis. But remember, we have a very large part of the workforce that's out in the field traveling.
Well, I don't want to at all disparage. In fact, I want to compliment those who worked through the pandemic and the risks they took to make certain that their jobs, their responsibilities were fulfilled. I don't believe that you can have and we'll see what your study indicates, but I think it's very difficult to have a team effort in the absence of half of your employees on an ongoing basis. I understand the need to do this for the crisis of COVID, but I'm discouraged by your suggestion that this will be an ongoing method by which the FDA employees work. And it doesn't sound like at the moment there's a timeline, a plan to return them to the office. You're awaiting this analysis.
Well, I would say more and more people are returning to work, and as we work out the hybrid into the work environment they've been in, and as we work on the hybrid data, we're going to make decisions as we go as to what's most efficient. And
any thought about having people come back to work and then work on the hybrid plan? Go back to where you were before?
I mean, we'll certainly discuss that, but right now it doesn't seem like the most efficient approach, especially right now when we're in the midst of the BA5 surge.
You stated in previous testimony, I'll change a bit of the topic, to Congress and testimony to Congress, that the FDA intends to pay special attention to formula distribution in rural areas. Would you detail for me FDA's plans to prioritize formula distribution to rural communities?
Well, first of all, let me just say that the formula distribution is a function not just of FDA, but of the entire government, because it involves, as you know, the Department of Agriculture, HHS, and the executive branch. But the basic plan, you know, the first thing was to get production up in the U.S., then to use the enforcement discretion. I know we'll probably talk about this later with Dr. Main and Mr. Giannis, to bring in the international sources. The distribution initially was through the larger chains, and now there's an intense focus on getting to the smaller stores as quickly as possible. And that's a matter of hooking up, particularly the foreign firms that have not distributed in the U.S. before, to these smaller areas. That is one of the two areas of our major focus at this point.
Thank you. My time, too, has expired.
I would like to welcome Ranking